The dark green t-shirt and boxer shorts that his mother had dyed for him just 3 weeks ago clung to his skin, heavy and clammy beneath his camouflage utility jacket and trousers. He knew there would be leeches clinging to his legs, arms, back, and chest beneath his wet clothes, even though he couldn't feel them now. It was the way with leeches, he mused. They were so small and thin before they started sucking your blood that you rarely felt them unless they fell on you from a tree, and you never felt them piercing your skin. There was some sort of natural anesthetic in their saliva. You would discover them later, swollen with blood, sticking out from your skin like little pregnant bellies. When the last Marine entered the maze of switchbacks and crude gates in the barbed wire, Mellas nodded to Fisher, the squad leader, one of 3 who reported to him. 11 plus us 3, he said. Fisher nodded back, put his thumb up in agreement, and entered the wire. Mellas followed him, trailed by his radio operator, Hamilton. The patrol emerged from the wire, and the young Marines climbed slowly up the slope of the new fire support base, FSB Matterhorn, bent over with fatigue, picking their way around shattered stumps and dead trees that gave no shelter. The verdant underbrush had been hacked down with K-bar knives to clear fields of fire for the defensive lines, and the jungle floor, once veined with rivulets of water, was now only sucking clay. The thin, wet straps of Mellas's 2 cotton ammunition bandoliers dug into the back of his neck, each with the weight of 20 fully loaded M16 magazines. These straps had rubbed him raw. All he wanted to do now was get back to his hooch and take them off, along with his soaking boots and socks. He also wanted to go unconscious. That, however, wasn't possible. He knew he would finally have to deal with the nagging problem that Bass, his platoon sergeant, had laid on him that morning, and that he had avoided by using the excuse of leaving on patrol. A black kid, he couldn't remember the name, a machine gunner in 3rd Squad, was upset with the company gunny, the gunnery sergeant whose name he couldn't remember either. There were 40 new names and faces in Mellas's platoon alone, and almost 200 in the company, and black or white, they all looked the same. It overwhelmed him. From the skipper right on down, they all wore the same filthy, tattered camouflage, with no rank insignia, no way of distinguishing them. All of them were too thin, too young, and too exhausted. They all talked the same, too, saying fuck or some adjective, noun, or adverb with fuck in it every 4 words. Most of the intervening 3 words of their conversations dealt with unhappiness about food, mail, time in the bush, and girls they had left behind in high school. Mellas swore he'd succumb to none of it. This black kid wanted out of the bush to have his recurrent headaches examined, and some of the brothers were stirring things up in support. The gunnery sergeant thought the kid was malingering and should have his butt kicked. Then another black kid refused to have his hair cut, and people were up in arms about that. Mellas was supposed to be fighting a war. No one at the basic school had said he'd be dealing with junior Malcolm X's and redneck Georgia crackers. Why couldn't the Navy corpsmen just decide shit like whether headaches were real or not? They were supposed to be the medical experts. Did the platoon commanders on Iwo Jima have to deal with crap like this? As Mellas plodded slowly up the hill, with Fisher next to him and Hamilton automatically following with the radio, he became embarrassed by the sound his boots made as they pulled free of the mud, fearing that it would draw attention to the fact that they were still shiny and black. He quickly covered for this by complaining to Fisher about the squad's machine gunner, Hippie, making too much noise when Fisher had asked for the machine gun to come to the head of the small column because the point man thought he'd heard movement. Just speaking about the recent near encounter with an enemy Mellas had not yet seen started his insides humming again, the vibration of fear that was like a strong electric potential with no place to discharge. Part of him was relieved that it had been a near miss, but another part acted peeved that the noise might have cost them an opportunity for action, and this peevishness in turn irked Fisher. When they reached the squad's usual position in the company lines, Mellas could see that Fisher could barely contain his own annoyance by the way he nearly threw to the ground the 3 staves he'd cut for himself and a couple of friends while out on the patrol. These staves were raw material for short-timers' sticks, elaborately carved walking sticks, roughly 1.5 inches in diameter and 3 to 5 feet long. Some were simple calendars, other works of folk art. Each stick was marked in a way that showed how many days its owner had survived on his 13-month